This is the Strait of Malacca, a narrow stretch of water located between the Malay Peninsula and the Indonesian island of Sumatra. For centuries, it served as the single most vital gateway between the Indian and Pacific Oceans, making it one of the most strategic and geopolitically important regions on Earth. However, nearby Thailand is planning to create a shortcut that would completely bypass it. But what exactly is this shortcut going to be, and how's it going to impact the rest of this vital region? Hi, my name's Regis, and let's take a closer look. Before we can talk about Thailand's plans to bypass the Malacca Strait, we first have to understand just how important this area of the world really is. Looking at a map of the region, it can be fairly easy to understand the geopolitical importance of this tiny stretch of water. This waterway, simply speaking, is the shortest possible sea route for any ship that wants to transit in and out of East Asia, a region where some of the world's largest economies, such as China, Japan, and South Korea, are all located. Because of this, the Malacca Strait sees more than 90,000 vessels pass through it each year, making it one of the single busiest waterways in the entire world. The ships that pass through this area account for a mind-boggling 30% of all traded goods globally, amounting to somewhere between 3 and 4 trillion US dollars in total value each and every year. What's even crazier is that 9 out of the 10 busiest shipping ports in the world are all located around this same area in the Indo-Pacific. Simply put, this narrow stretch of water holds immense value, not just to the countries in the surrounding area, but also to the rest of the world. That's why even the United States, which is more than 14,000 kilometers away, still maintains a semi-permanent military presence around the area in countries like Malaysia, Singapore, and the Philippines. They also conduct regular military exercises with those same countries, along with Thailand, Indonesia, and Brunei. It's in their best interest to maintain the stability of this region and make sure that no competing powers will take the area for themselves. On the other hand, it also makes sense why China, the world's second largest economy, also wants to establish their presence over this highly contested area of the world. More than 2/3 of their entire maritime trade volume passes through the Malacca. And because of this, China has also made significant efforts in protecting their interests in the region by claiming various islands and establishing a military presence in the nearby South China Sea. And if that wasn't enough, they've even begun creating artificial islands in the area where they construct various military installations. But because of this huge strategic and geopolitical importance, the Strait of Malacca is also a single point of failure in the global supply chain. With more than 90,000 vessels passing through it each year, this narrow corridor can sometimes become extremely congested, greatly increasing the risk of maritime collisions or becoming a navigational hazard for every ship that passes through. We've already seen how the global supply chain can easily be disrupted just by one single accident when the Suez Canal was blocked for an entire week back in 2021. Who knows how bad the effects could have been if it were to happen in the Strait of Malacca. Now, because of this, Thailand has actually been planning to create a completely new trade route that would bypass the Strait of Malacca in its entirety. This is the Kra Isthmus, a narrow stretch of land that connects the Malay Peninsula to the rest of the Asian mainland. At its narrowest, this landform is actually just 40 kilometers across between the Kra Buri district and the province of Chumphon, both located in southern Thailand. And with only a few kilometers separating the Gulf of Thailand on the east with the Andaman Sea to the west, this region almost feels like it's begging for a canal to be built right through it. And Thailand has definitely thought of doing exactly that multiple times over the years. The first known proposal dates all the way back to the 17th century, during the rule of the Thai king Narai. However, due to the lack of modern engineering capabilities at the time, the project never really took shape beyond the conceptual stage. Many other proposals were suggested throughout the 17 and 1800s by both French and British engineers, but yet again, none of them really materialized into anything concrete. By 1897, Thailand had signed an agreement with the British Empire that forbid them from building a canal across the Kra Isthmus without permission from the British. This was done in order to maintain Singapore's role in the region as a major trading hub controlled by the British Empire. The British would continue to block all progress towards a canal in Thailand up until Singapore's independence in 1965, which finally ended the British influence and interest in the surrounding region. Thailand would continue to consider various canal proposals across the Kra Isthmus over the next few decades. However, the one proposal that finally seemed like it would actually materialize into something came in 2005 from an up-and-coming global superpower, China. which expressed interest in funding, constructing, and managing the canal if it were ever to be completed. This proposal was finally put into writing in 2015, when both countries signed a memorandum of understanding to finally build the long-proposed megaproject. There have been many different proposed routes for the Thai Canal, but the one that has been studied and suggested the most would span a total of 128 kilometers, starting from the province of Krabi by the Andaman Sea all the way to Songkhla by the Gulf of Thailand. The canal would be 400 meters wide, 25 meters deep, and would be entirely built at sea level. Because of this, the Thai Canal wouldn't require any form of elaborate system of locks like the ones used with the Panama Canal. It's estimated that this project would cost as many as $28 billion and take as long as an entire decade to complete. Now, the most obvious benefit for building this canal would be that it would shorten the distance and the amount of time it would take for vessels to transit between the South China Sea and the Andaman Sea. According to some estimates, this shortcut would save as many as 3 days worth of sailing and would reduce the distance traveled by at least 1,200 kilometers. A decently sized oil tanker, for example, would save as much as $350,000 per trip if they were to take this hypothetical shorter route. Another benefit that Thailand would enjoy if the canal were ever to be actually completed is that they could potentially become a global shipping and logistics hub just like neighboring Singapore. The project would also help revitalize the relatively poorer and more rural southern provinces of the country by providing jobs and economic opportunities to the entire region. China, who has personally come forward to help build the canal, will also directly benefit from its construction. Who could have guessed? Once the Thai Canal is constructed, they would then have an alternate route for their imports and exports to completely bypass the Malacca Strait, an area that's almost completely surrounded by the United States and its Southeast Asian allies. However, despite all these obvious benefits, the construction of the Thai Canal would also bring with it many disadvantages. As with any other megaproject of this scale, the social and environmental costs will most definitely be enormous here. An estimated 60,000 people will directly be displaced by the canal's construction, and that's only accounting for the people who live in direct proximity to the canal's proposed route. There will likely be tens of thousands more people, such as local fishermen and farmers, whose livelihoods could potentially be affected once the canal is constructed. The project would also destroy untold amounts of local vegetation and marine life by the coasts. Another major criticism against this project is that it would quite literally divide the country in two, physically severing Thailand's largest neglected and ethnically Malay southern provinces from the rest of the country, and potentially allowing secessionist movements in the region, which have been around since the 1940s, to continue to develop. Furthermore, this canal across the Kra Isthmus would also mean that Thailand would be directly competing against its neighbors Malaysia and Singapore over the maritime traffic that passes through the Strait of Malacca. Although there aren't any transit fees for ships to pass through the strait, both countries still benefit from the amount of traffic that passes through their respective ports. Such a canal could create tension between these countries, despite them all being on relatively good terms with each other as ASEAN allies. The construction of the Thai Canal could also possibly anger the United States and India by allowing Chinese vessels to freely navigate between the South China Sea directly into the Andaman Sea and the Indian Ocean, thereby putting Thailand in a very precarious position in an already geopolitically complex region of the world. Because of all these disadvantages, support for the construction of the Thai Canal has started to slowly decrease over the years. Even China, who initially put forth the proposal to fund, build, and manage the project in the first place, has now found an alternative solution to their Malacca Strait problem. Through the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, China now has an alternate route for their oil and gas imports from the Middle East. Then in February of 2018, Thailand's Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha even declared to the public that the Thai Canal was not a priority of the government, stating that the project was still pending a study and that there are still other problems in the area that first need to be prioritized. Finally, in September 2020, it was ultimately decided by the Thai government after months of feasibility studies that the proposed Kra Canal, which would have been funded and constructed by China, will no longer push through. Their investigation found that the project would be too costly for the Thai government and would serve only as a liability. Additionally, the potential risks of the construction would far outweigh the potential benefits that they would have gained. Despite the canal project seemingly hitting a dead end once again, again, Thailand is still hopeful that they would be able to bridge the gap between the Andaman Sea and the Gulf of Thailand. And to do this, they're building a megaproject that's similar in scale to the Thai Canal itself. But before we can talk about this new insane megaproject, we'd really appreciate your feedback in the comments below. If you enjoy these types of videos, make sure to subscribe to MegaBuilds and let us know. Thank you so much for your support, and now let's get back to the video. This is Thailand's Land Bridge Megaproject. We're honestly not sure if that's the actual name for the project or if it's just a placeholder, but for now we're going to stick with it since that's what most people and news outlets are calling it. Instead of a canal that would physically separate the country in two, the Land Bridge project would connect Thailand's east and west coast through a series of infrastructure developments that would boost the connectivity between either side of the Kra Isthmus. The project would consist of two new deepwater ports in Ranong and Chumphon, which would both serve as major gateways for international shipping on their respective sides of the Kra Isthmus. These two ports will then be connected by a 90-kilometer stretch of highways, railroads, and pipelines that would serve as a fast and efficient way to transport goods between the two sides. Interestingly, this entire proposal is estimated to cost as much as $28 billion US. And if that sounds familiar, that's because it's the exact same price tag for the now scrapped Thai Canal, which the Land Bridge project aims to replace. Additionally, the entire construction is estimated to create as many as 280,000 jobs in the Chumphon and Ranong provinces alone. In February 2024, the Thai parliament voted in favor of the land bridge after a thorough deliberation that sought to challenge the project's feasibility. According to their findings, the project would attract significant investments to the region and would create a vital logistics infrastructure for the country's southern provinces to facilitate agricultural exports to major trade partners, such as the European Union and China. The land bridge would also prove to be convenient for easier trade between Thailand and neighboring countries such as Cambodia, Myanmar, Laos, and Vietnam. As of March 2024, the Thai government is conducting various presentations and roadshows in order to attract potential investors for the project.
Prime Minister Sethar Thavisin inaugurated the roadshow involving seminars on the Land Bridge project and the associated business opportunities, attended by representatives from almost 30 major Japanese firms.
Reportedly, some Chinese and Japanese investors have already shown interest and are currently in talks with the Thai government over how to move forward with financing the land bridge project. Now, official bids for the creation of the project are estimated to begin sometime in 2026, while the actual construction itself is expected to begin later in that same year. The land bridge is expected to be partially functional by 2030 and fully constructed by the year 2039. So, what do you think? Will the land bridge project actually be completed, or will it suffer the same fate as the Thai Canal? Let us know in the comments down below. If you want to see more about similar projects, we highly recommend that you watch our video about Mexico's $4.5 billion Panama Canal rival. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.